All right. We getting right into it. Welcome to Starlight My channel. We in for another banger today. You can tell by the title. We in for another interesting video today. Another really good live, very informative one at that. And like I said, you can tell by the title today, we're gonna be talking about the spirituality of psychedelic visuals. Now this one is gonna be a deep one. This is an interesting one. All right. So the spirituality of psychedelic visuals. All right. And we getting right into this, right? So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the chrysanthemum. What is the chrysanthemum? It's also something that you see when you look at the kaleidoscope. I'm saying this for a reason. It's also something when you see when you look at the kaleidoscope. It's in a lot of when you go to certain churches, certain I don't want to say it could be synagogues, certain cathedrals and basilicas. Some of the paintings that be on some of those windows with the different spectrums and fractals of not only color shades but like geometric shapes and stuff like that with all the different multiple colors that it look crazy but it's beautiful too. And so when the sun comes in, it hits makes the light hit a certain type of way. They know what they're doing. When you go into certain, like I said, cathedrals as well, when you look at the top and some of those, you may call it Masonic art or whatever, but a lot of these people know what they're doing. And what the chrysanthemum is, like I told you, the best thing you might remember from is like the kaleidoscope with all those fractals together. Look it up. But the best thing that you can understand about the chrysanthemum is this is a common thing that you see with a lot of people when they draw out their psychedelic experiences, whether they took LSD, acid, DMT, mushrooms. And by the way, we're not never promoting none of this stuff. We're just breaking down informatively, especially from a metaphysical, esoteric, or spiritual perspective of what these things actually are and mean and what you are seeing, so that you know and you are aware for knowledge, information. All right. So basically, getting back into it. A lot of people, whenever they took any of the acid trips, LSD, any psychedelic mushrooms, DMT, whatever, and they draw out what they see, and a lot of times you see a lot of times chrysanthemum fractals are like different shades and spectrums and geometrical shapes aligned a certain type of way that with many different colors as well that looks like the chrysanthemum. And here's the thing. A lot of times what you don't realize is when you see these things, when you see stuff like the chrysanthemum, like I said, look it up for real though, but so you can know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about. When you're looking at these things, I know it look like it don't make sense, right? It look like, okay, what is this? This is a whole bunch of colors put together. This is woo. Oh, they just high. They just high they mind seeing stuff. This ain't even, they just making stuff in their head. This old woo woo gaga. All this some wonderland type stuff. This is stupid, right? But when you really pay attention, what you start to realize is this is actually a world. But then when we talk about the chrysanthemum and these psychedelic trips and these visuals, there's the reason why a lot of people, when they get really deep into it, they get into a situation where they can't come back and physically tell you with words to describe you in the third dimension what they've just seen. And the reason for that is when you go into those deep psychedelic trips, what you'll realize is that when you go deep and deep into it, if you just do a little bit and just get your foot in the water, you're gonna remember a lot of the stuff. You could explain to a person what you seen and felt. But there's a thing, there's a whole list and a whole tier to it. They talk about like the waiting room, you waiting to get going beyond the veil. Once you get beyond the veil, they call it going beyond the veil, like with mushrooms. Once you get further than that, a lot of times you go real deep into it. It's a word for it, but once you go real deep into it, and you like, you're not gonna really be able to not necessarily decipher, but explain it in the realm of reality that we are in. Remember, we are third dimensional. And the whole thing about the chrysanthemum and these psychedelic visuals that people try to write down and explain, and the reason why they don't remember them is because the thing about these things is you were seeing things, you were in a higher dimension, you were in a higher realm, you were seeing things from a more higher perspective. You see what I'm saying? From a higher dimensional point of view. So when you leave these things, right? When you go and your soul goes into that world, or you're in a situation where your mind is now in that world, it doesn't consist of nothing that deals with this third dimension. So it's harder for you to piece it out piece by piece to come back and tell somebody using intellect, because that's of this world. You trying to correlate something that's from another world, from another plane of existence, from another dimensional perspective, and bring that down into this third dimensional perspective. That's like taking a fifth dimensional shape or a sixth dimensional shape and trying to make sense out of it in the third dimension. How far can you really do with getting that? Your brain can't even perceive some. Your brain, your mind overall is fourth dimensional. Your emotions and feelings are fifth dimensional. You can only perceive so much in general. You don't, people don't. That's why they say you only have so much access to your right brain, or no. They say you only have so much access to your brain in general. They say you only access 10%. They're just throwing numbers on there, but it's truth to it. You don't utilize the whole thing. A lot of it is subconscious, and a lot of these things we don't even fully take the time to build and train to understand within ourselves what these things are. So that's why it plays out like that. And you looking at something that's on a higher dimensional perspective, you're not gonna be able to necessarily either. Sometimes you don't remember it, but you're not gonna be able to bring that down to make sense out of that in its reality. Anyway, like I said, how you gonna break down a six dimensional, fifth dimensional shape and show a person in a best way possible? And you, if everything around you is third dimensional, everything we in is third dimensional. You see what I'm saying? We in a third dimensional world, so you're not gonna be able to necessarily break down a fifth or sixth dimensional object or spiritual fear the same way. You'll give people certain ideas that they can get to correlate to kind of understand the gist of certain things for sure. But you never, a person never gonna understand that full puzzle because they're not in that realm. Like I said, your mind, your thinking, your thoughts, and analyzation, that's fourth dimensional. That's boxing something out. That's the square. Emotions and feelings, that's fifth dimensional. You see what I'm saying? And we really don't have a full understanding of really that. We just have access to these things. You see what I'm saying? And they're so and far and beyond. But when you doing psychedelic trips and visuals, yeah, those visuals that you seeing, like I said, especially when you deep into it, because when you be just a little bit into it, you take a, like 2, 3 grams of, you're fading in that realm. You could say stuff like, oh, the walls are caving in, the colors are more vivid, my perception was different, my perception was more keen. But that's, you weren't deep into that spiritual realm to fully be in a situation where you're seeing everything play out the way it is, to the point where you'll be able to come back here and you won't be able to, you know what I'm saying, actually tell a person because you were so deep in those waters, so deep in that spiritual realm. And that's that's all I'm saying. That we're talking about the chrysanthemum and basically these psychedelic visuals that you don't remember, and it's hard to explain, is because these fractals, like I said, the kaleidoscope, the chrysanthemum. Look all this stuff up. Look up chrysanthemum. ChrysantHemum. That's what they talk about, like sacred geometry and all that stuff like that. These are actual worlds. When people write down these psychedelic trips and it's like a whole bunch of faces, like four-dimensional faces with four faces all around, you're like, what is this mess? This don't make no sense. With the bottom of the body interjecting with the body, you can't perceive it, but this is the actual realm. These are actual shapes and figures. This is the actual world that you can't actually perceive yet because you're not in that realm, birthed out into that realm, or like you die. You say you die in the sin, right? You take a higher vessel. A higher vessel can perceive more. Its awareness is because you're such an idiot. But don't nobody care. Guys and real spirits just laugh in the face of you. I'm pretty sure you ain't nothing really. But we all ain't nothing because all of our spirit is no thing. Because we are none of these objects that we're in. We're all living different, multiple awareness of existences. Our spirits just expand and contract. And the bigger we get, the bigger our spirits get, is that's the more information we get. The more lives we live, the more bigger our spirit gets. So you'll be able to take higher vessels. You see what I'm saying? But that's another video, so I'm not really worried about that in this video. But this is why they call it conscious level, conscious awareness, because when you ascend, the higher vessel you go, the bigger vessels you go into, the higher you go on the ascending scale, the more conscious awareness you have. The bodies you go into are much more to them. You have more conscious awareness. So if you was in those worlds, if you was in the fourth or fifth dimensional being, in, like as a soul actually incarnated in that world like that, in one of those vessels, you will be able to see it as such. Like the same way we see this world, we look out, we see trees, we can shape it out. You'll be able to shape out a lot of your psychedelic trips when you deep into it, like you 7, 8, 9, 10 grams into mushrooms, you 11, 12, 13 grams into mushrooms. However, I'm just making up numbers, but like the deeper you go, those stuff that you come back and can't necessarily tell a person, but you know you've been somewhere and it's deeply affected you, but you can't come back and make sense out of it to tell somebody for them to understand it in the logical way to make sense out of it. If you was in those vessels, you would be able to actually correlate and have the conscious level of awareness. You have a higher conscious level of awareness, aka higher conscious level of awareness, to be able to perceive what you've just seen. So the kaleidoscope, you would actually be able to piece that out and see that as a world. It's not just a bunch of fractals and geometric codes and nonsense. That's the actual world. That's the actual world. And the deeper you get into it, when you're in that realm, it actually starts to come together and make sense when you're on these trips. And you can see it for that split fractal time. But when you come back into this third dimensional world, your mind and your body, you can't logically make that out because your soul experienced that. But you can't consciously logically decipher it because it was on a higher dimensional scale. For you to break it down in this lower dimensional scale, it's gonna be kind of hard, you see what I'm saying, for a person to fully understand it. So I know I'm not gonna keep rambling on it because I know y'all get the gist of what I'm trying to say. But that's what the chrysanthemum is. That's what these deep psychedelic rituals are that it's hard to make sense out of. And when people write them down or draw them, they look cool, but it don't like it makes sense, like a whole bunch of nonsense put together. No, these are actual worlds. These are actual perceptions. If you was had that dimensional awareness and conscious level awareness high enough to see it and perceive it, you will realize that this is a whole world. These fractals and geometrical grids and codes and all that stuff like that. Not even codes, but these grids and fractals and geometrical shapes and kaleidoscope images and chrysanthemum images, these are actual worlds that once you have the vessel, the mind, the conscious awareness to be able to perceive it, you'll see it as a world. This is where you see this world at now. You can walk through it and perceive it and see it and okay, this is that. And walk through it as the actual world. That's how you will see that. It is not gonna look like nonsense when you actually get if you actually get birthed out into that world or you get the high enough conscious levels of awareness to understand it, you're gonna realize it's not just nonsense, not just art. It's a literal world. You can walk and you will see everything just like you see stuff now. You would actually see it and make sense out of it and all that stuff like that. And that's a higher level of life, so it's more broader colors, more higher colors. But you're not gonna look at it like that. It's just gonna be normal like it is now. The same way you hear now, you didn't you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many different colors here. It was just normal to you, and then you did learn more about them as you grew up. But it was still something that's normal to you. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Well, I gotta go back to where I'm. It's not like that. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is in these higher worlds. Everything comes with a gift and a curse. Everything has a negative and a positive, a yin and a yang. There's always going to be a downside to something and an upside to something. But this is the levels of life in general, and you're not going to see it as nothing no more different. Um, Now moving on. All right, so if we talk about the spirituality, psychedelic visual, another thing we're going to talk about is this. When we talk about the chrysanthemum, right? Check this out. When we talk about the chrysanthemum and these different psychedelic visuals and these spiritual geometries and geometric grids that we see, right? We also experience this when we put pressure on our eyes. We've all experienced this before as kids when we like press our eyelids down, like we close our eyes, we take both of our hands and press down gently on both of our eyelids for like let's say like 30 seconds for a certain period of time, and all of a sudden you start seeing these geometrical spectrals and shapes and like that's kind of like what the kaleidoscopes and all that stuff and chrysanthemum look like too. That's why I say when you close your eyes, you're in that realm. And that is the realm of void and darkness. This is why they say the yin is internal. The yin, you got the yang, we in the yang realm, we external, third dimension, right? Then you got the yin realm. The yin realm is the internal. You see what I'm saying? And there's many different levels within that. The yin realm is like the spiritual realm, the realm of the soul, the realm of the astral, the realm of the dream realm, more closer to the spirit realm. That's what the yin realm is. So when you close your eyes, it's really all darkness. When you emanate an image, that's that inner fire, now you can see. Like, think about what physically you're on Earth. You can't see, or you think they came up with a candle, or you think they came up with a lighter, so you can see. When you spark that fire, you can now see in the dark. Same thing with your imagination. Close your eyes, you're in the yin room, emanate an image, you now can see. That's esoteric fire. The spiritual, esoteric version of fire. Metaphysical version of fire. Fire deal with imaginations and visions. I told y'all that in another video. Another thing, the more broader your imagination is, the more farther you can travel in the astral realm. Because in certain realms of realities in the astral realm, your imagination predicts how far you'll travel. Your imagination is your travel in certain realms of realities within the yin realm. It shows your emotions and feelings, but that's a different video because they both kind of conjunct into one. But don't even worry about that. So moving on, right? You like I said, when you put pressure on both your eyelids for a certain period of time, you start seeing all these fractals and these lights and stuff like that. That's kind of like letting you know the grids, these different grids. You see what I'm saying? These vortices that you see in these spectrums and fractals of light that have different shapes and patterns, geometrical looking shapes with these different colors and stuff like that. That's also a piece of the chrysanthemum too, because when you get deep into the spiritual realm, it won't make sense to you in this world. Like that's my whole point. That's what people don't get. It's like, oh, what do you mean? But when I go to sleep, I'm on Earth. Yeah, but that's what you don't get. A lot of y'all, when y'all go to sleep, you're floating around Earth. Y'all are not going into higher realms. Well, actually, we do every now and then, but these be the dreams that we have that we either don't remember them, like I just said, because you're in the world, you just don't have the mind to fully perceive that out. I'm trying to tell y'all. Know what I'm talking about. A lot of y'all are lost and coming back here 1,000 times. It's quite hilarious as it could be. But understanding that, it's just like, that's how things play out. And I'm not even trying to get too deep into anything specifically talk about this, but I just want to let y'all know that is how things play out. Because in the fourth, fifth, sixth, the higher realms, you are in a situation where you're not going up there and piecing that out and bringing that down here to be like, oh yeah, I seen X, Y, and Z and it's shaped like this. You can't really explain it. That's like going deeply on a deep psychedelic trip, deep trip, and not even remembering. You remembering it and you know what you can explain a little bit of it, but you can only go so far because your mental here, your human brain can only perceive so much of that. Your spiritual experience remembers it, but your mental body, your mind, can't fully perceive and explain it out for somebody to fully understand it. So now moving on. Um, oh, but like I said, I'm gonna go back to that too. But like I was finishing what I was saying, a lot of people when they go to sleep, most people when they go to sleep, they still float around on Earth. which lets you know they're getting ready to reincarnate. But they float around on Earth. They're doing the same thing they was doing when they was on Earth. So you was a spirit. Well, how you think they get the concept of a ghost? That's what a ghost is, like when they die, but they doing that actually fully when they die. So when they die, they still floating around, just like how you have dreams all the time that you're on Earth. That's how they floating around here on Earth. That mean they lost. They didn't have no imagination for something else. You gonna always have dreams about Earth in general because you're still here. But if on a high, on a higher percentage level, 90 95% of the time, you only dream about Earth. That means you attached to it. So it's a good chance when you pass away, you might, if you too attached to these things, you'll be lost down here as a ghost and get ready to be reincarnated down here again as a vessel. And if you're not spiritual, if you're not into this stuff, please just leave the page, bro. I'm not here. I'm not doing this for views. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because I got a mission that I'm on. I could care if y'all not trying to hear it or not. Just leave. Feel free to troll, have fun if that's what you want to do. If that make you feel good, I accept all the energy. I encourage all the energy though. But if you're really not on that, bro, don't waste your own time. But hey, do as you please. It's your life. It's your path. But my whole point is this, right? Understand that about that, right? Understand that. And when you really go into that realm, like I explained before, deeply into the actual astral realm and not just floating around on Earth, a lot of times you won't be able to perceive it. And if you do, it'll be something that you remember, but it look totally different than this realm. You see what I'm saying? It'll you'll know that you're in another world because it'll look totally different from this realm. Very very beautiful thing. But moving on. Another thing you need to understand is like I said before, you can't fully perceive these higher realms of dimensions to the fullest extent. To the fullest extent because this this is because of our third dimensional minds. But it actually comes together and actually creates a world. And that's I'm in and out on that. That's what you need to understand about the chrysanthemum. When we talk about these psychedelic visuals, these kaleidoscopes, all these things like that, these are actual worlds. They actually come together and create an actual world, but you can't see it. It's just like this. Like say you blur, right? Say you blurred out. You close your eyes real tight. You blurred your vision. Or like say you're in a situation where you somebody punch you in your eye, bam, or slap the mess out of you right in your face, bam, and you're like, oh shoot. You know how like for a second you can't really see. Your eyes may be open, but you can't see nothing. It be like blurry. Look at it like that. It's like a blur. A kaleidoscope is like a really a blur. It's like a blur mentally to us because of how low we are dimensionally, and so you can't really piece it out. But then when you finally come to your grips, to your senses, and your eyes can work again, you can open up. You can see now through your retinas. What happens? You can now perceive Earth again. Oh, okay. Oh, I see the trees. I see the shit. I see. You see what I'm saying? I see this building. I see my house. Okay. You can see the world now. But that's the best way to just explain it and using it as an example like that. It's like a blur. The best way to explain the chrysanthemums and kaleidoscopes is like a blur. But if you had the actual, like I said, the conscious awareness and the actual higher brain, and if you took a higher vessel and a higher ascended um, vehicle or body, you would be able to actually not see it as a blur like you do here because you're so low on a dimensional scale. You would be on that dimensional scale and have a higher conscious awareness to actually see it. Just like if you blurred your eyes now, you can't see nothing. It'll look just like a blur. But then when you come to grips with it and you can now see it, you see the world like it is now. You like, oh, you can make sense out of it. Oh, this is the actual world. Walk around and see the things and then make sense out of it like that. But with that being said, this video was about the spirituality of psychedelic visuals. I hope y'all got an understanding of it. Didn't mean to drop no hostility, but somebody came here, saying some crazy stuff. I don't know. Usually I don't give that stuff attention, but it must be because I don't know if we in Scorpio or Sagittarius season, something like that. But yeah, it is what it is though. But yeah, hope y'all got the understanding of this video because it's a deep meaning to it. And peace.